Well, today is day 4, or build day 4, for our vMix, what is it called? Obtanium. Yeah, vMix Obtanium PC. We're building 2 of them. We got one built, and it is so sweet. And that's the second one. The first one, you can see it right there. It's jammed. Let's see if we can fix it on today's show. Stick around. We'll be right back. Let's try that again. Today, we're going to do a build. Well, actually, we're going to continue our build of the Obtanium, vMix Reference System Obtanium PC. I still get Obsidian stuck in my head. But we need to talk about how you name your stuff, vMix. Anyway, the second one is beautiful. The first one, you can see it right over my shoulder right there. It's stuck at the splash screen. We'll see if we can fix that today. Stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, let's turn some audio on. That should come on automatically. Triggers on transition in, audio on. There we go. Oh, I see the problem. It's got a 4-second delay set in it by accident. So let's move that up to the top. Okay, there we go. Now we're fixed. Save. Yeah. Okay. All right. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. No problem, huh? No problem. Yeah, maybe. So if you can think it, you can have it, whether you want it or not. Don't know that that's the right interpretation of that, Dave. For the thing which I greatly feared has come upon me, and that which I was afraid of come unto me. Yeah, yeah, yep. Well, you know, that's funny because that one's a two-edged, I mean, for me, it's a two-edged sword because I thought it was going to work and I also thought it was going to bomb. And there are two of them. One I thought was going to work, the other I thought was going to bomb. Actually, one I thought was going to bomb, the other I thought was going to work. So we'll see. We'll get started on that in a minute. Who have we got here? We've got John here. Glad to have you. Yes, indeedy. We've got Eric here. Eric, were your ears burning yesterday? I was talking with somebody and your name came up, or actually I brought your name up. So yeah, and it's interesting. I want to loop you in. Actually, there is a better than that. In the vMix forum, there is I think it's just the regular forum. Let me see. Let's find it, and we'll show everybody vMix forums. Do we have a desktop capture? Yeah, here we go. Desktop capture, forums, general discussion. I know this is small. Well, we just better search for it. Let's search for it. Here we go, search. Keyword is Obtanium. Search. And here we go. And it's called Obtanium build, but with a 570 Ti, not booting, gigabyte MW83 RPO with the Xeon W5 2565X. And this person 2 months ago was having all sorts of problems. And then this person 2 months ago suggested a BIOS upgrade. And he said he can't find any BIOS upgrades because he can't get a display. And then somebody offered some general help, which is not specific to these. This is more general help, which was not specific. And this is my post, which is general help, which really wasn't specific either. And here's somebody else that has faced the same problem. Nothing being displayed on the display ports or the HDMI ports. So he's got a problem. And then this person says, do you have access to the BIOS? And then this person says, I have the exact same build, same problems, installed Windows, but once the graphics drivers installed, the system wouldn't start. And that's specifically, probably specific to this board, to the Gigabyte board. And they reached out to Gigabyte and he suggested not using Windows 11 24H2, but instead use 23H2. And then I came on and said, this is interesting. I faced many of the same problems. And then I've updated again. Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff in this thread. And then here's somebody talking about the Gigabyte board and maybe there's a better board. And then another post from me. So I'm gonna update this thread with my comments from today. And we'll just sort of see how it goes. But I invite you guys that have done an Obtanium build or are thinking about it to get going, to have a look in the forum and see what you think. 1997. Well, it could be 1997. You never know. The vMix guys, you know, they don't like to change a lot of things. All right, well, we're counting down the time here, 25 seconds. So let's get a show going, and we'll see if any of this works. We'll see if any of this works, right? And yeah, there we go. If it ain't broke, don't mess with it. And actually, it has broken in the past. It's been kind of funny. All right, let's go. Let's go. We're counting down. 3, 2, 1. And here we go. Here we go. Hot dog. Glad to have you guys here. It's going to be a great show today. Looking forward to it. At least halfway looking forward to it. As you know, this is show 4 of, we're not sure how many, talking about the Obtanium build. This is the vMix reference system that vMix has developed after lots of research and testing. They came up with this configuration that would support 24 HD cameras or 6 4K cameras, including instant replay. So this is a lot of power. This is like mammoth power. I mean, the CPU is as big as my fist. Well, it's probably as big as my palm. Compare that with, you know, the CPUs that we're used to using, the i7s and i9s. This one's not, this one's mammoth. And so I'm building 2. One wasn't good enough, so I'm building 2. And the first one was the one that you saw in the first 3 videos, builds 1, 2, and 3, where it was a struggle. And it was the first time doing it. So, you know, first time out of the box, there's always going to be something. So I learned a lot on the first one. When I built the second one, I built it Monday. Excuse me just a second. Goodness, sorry about that. I built it Monday and it went very, very smoothly. I learned a lot on that one too. And so now we've got, this is the first one behind me. This is the problem child. This is the red-headed stepson, red-headed stepchild. And so I'm going to go through and show you some of the things that we're running into, and maybe you've got some suggestions, and show you some of the things that I've done. And I think I've got a camera that gives us a little closer view. Yeah, let's see. That's slightly out of focus on the screen, but I think that's going to work. And then bear with me just a second. Of course, I want to put myself in the picture. Actually, I can't put myself in the picture because I'm going to be over there. All right, well, let's just do that. So I'm going to roll over. And for those of you that have been with the show for a while, and you may have noticed, my chair doesn't squeak today. All right, you hear the fans running, and this guy is just sitting there. He's ready to go. It's in Windows. This is Windows 11, version 23H2, and that's important because 24H2, which Windows wants me to do right now, it says it right down there. Oh, and there's the problem. There's the problem. This system just decides to go away, and the fans on the GPU run full blast, and we have to turn it off. We'll turn it off for just a second, let everything settle down, and then before I turn it on, let me give you the rest of the setup. So we've got a RTX 4080 Super. We've got the W5 2565X Xeon CPU. We've got 64 gigs of RAM, special RAM to go with the motherboard. We've got this fancy cooler that actually secures this huge CPU to the motherboard. We've got 24-pin, 8-pin, 8-pin power connectors. We've got connections for the fan, for the fan and for the pump. And then we've got a keyboard, a mouse, and a USB dock right here. And then that's Ethernet, and that is DisplayPort into the card. The reason why we've got keyboard and mouse as cabled is because I thought maybe I was having a problem with the wireless. So I said, well, let's just, you know, eliminate that and bring in keyboard via wire, but it hasn't made any difference. Okay, let's boot this guy back up. Turning it on, it'll boot from just the on-off switch on the PSU. Unless I shut the system down by turning it off in Windows. But if I just turn it off on the power supply, when I turn it back on, it boots up. Now you see the little orange light down there. That's the monitor light to tell me that the monitor is in power saving mode. When you see that light turn white, we'll probably see the gigabyte flash screen. And then down here in the bottom left corner, we'll see the opportunity to post into the BIOS. And we'll probably do that, and I want to show you a few things that I've done there. And you may have some suggestions of other things that I can do. Now, again, I have two PCs, and one of them is set up this way, and one of them is set up a different way. The different way, well, again, we'll try to get into the BIOS, but in the BIOS, there is something called C states, and C states sort of govern how the power works, and monitors, and I don't know, maybe it controls it. I'm not an expert on that for sure. And the suggestion I got yesterday was to turn all the C states off so that there's nothing controlling the power, so that the power doesn't go to sleep. See, that's one of the problems. I thought, there we go. Let's go into the BIOS right here and see if we can do this. This thing will also boot from the network, which I thought is kind of interesting. I've never seen that before. Nope, it's not going to go to the BIOS. Okay, our keyboard deletes didn't register. Looks like we're going to go into Windows, but at least we're going to make it to Windows. There we go. There's Windows. Good old Windows. While we're there, let's see if we can get an activity report and see if we have any information on what happened just before we failed just a second ago. Administrative events. We'll let that populate. Application services, Windows logs. Let's see. Okay, there we go. All right. So what we're looking for is a critical error here. And there it is right there. Happened to, or is that yesterday? Nope, that's today. And that was 1 minute ago. So that's the one that put us away right there. And we had a couple of other warnings. We had an error in the event log. We had a TPMWMI, which I'm not familiar with. And then we had distributed COM, 3 of those, a security SPP. Anyway, we had a bunch of warnings, and of course, that's generally the case. Here is another critical error that happened earlier, right before the show started, and I rebooted this while the show was starting. So we'll have to go back and check and see what those are. But those errors basically say the system has rebooted without cleanly shutting down first. The error could be caused by the system. If the system stopped responding, well, yeah, crashed or lost power unexpectedly. Well, it didn't lose power. We definitely have power. So we see that we've got, let's see if there's anything else interesting here. We've got some warnings, some TPMs. All right. Anything noticed in setup? That was earlier today. Everything seems fine there. Application log. Same kind of warnings. Okay, so no help there, or at least no help immediately. So let's reboot this guy, if it will reboot. Sometimes it won't reboot. It'll just hang on reboot. So we're going to restart, and we'll see if we can get into the BIOS this time. And that's the reason why we're looking at this PC using a camera, because you can't show the BIOS without recording the screen. All right, so we'll just keep pressing the delete key. I think we got lucky there. Let's see. This doesn't boot like your normal PC. I guess because it's a server and maybe they just don't reboot. But one of the things that's nice, especially with an M.2 SSD on a regular system, is that they just boot just like that. But this guy, he takes his time on booting. Now, it doesn't have the fast boot enabled because I wanted to make sure everything was working and give it a chance to do what it needed to do. So that probably is part of it. We'll get the fast boot enabled at some point when we're sure everything's going. We can let this go for a while and it may or may not boot. But what I've found is that the system from Windows, when you tell it to reboot, it typically hangs. Now we got to the BIOS screen, but we're not getting anywhere else after that. So let's shut her down again and count to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, waiting for all my fans to stop spinning. And then we'll turn it back on and then it'll start. I say it'll start, it'll start making noise and blowing fans. Whether or not it really starts or not, I can't tell you. Just out of the picture right here, well, you can probably see them, but they're not in very good focus, are two little lights, two little green lights right there. One of them is on 24/7. The other one comes on in the same pattern. One long, one short, and then one long, one short, one long, one short. Back here is the solid state drive. Oh, you can't see it from your angle. That's okay, it's not much to see. But there's a light there that tells us when we're getting to access that drive. So that's nice. It's right there on the motherboard. It tells us that that drive is active. Right now it's not active. We're going to go to BIOS first. And pretty regularly we can go to BIOS this way. So let's give it just another minute and see. Now, Eric has built this system, and he used, this is a Gigabyte board. He used an Asus board and hasn't had any of these issues. And I think the issues are really, I think they're Gigabyte related. We'll see. I've been back. I mean, the fact that the board won't run an NVIDIA driver on Windows 24 H2 is it's probably a Windows problem. Could be a driver problem, but it's also a board problem because there we go. So let's go a bunch of different deletes to get into, and we're going into the power saving mode. Can we even get into the BIOS? We'll give this guy a little longer this time. See if we can get into the BIOS. I have another rig that is the exact duplicate of this rig. I've been using the same power supply for both. And the other rig, I have not used this video card. So maybe in just a minute for fun, we'll bring the other rig in and put this video card in it and see if we have the same problems with that rig. Because actually, with that other rig, I didn't want to take this one apart. I just threw in a NVIDIA RTX 3050. So that's like the smallest CPU, GPU you can find. And everything worked fine on that. Actually, why don't we try it on this one and see if it makes any difference. We'll turn that one off. We'll take a second, set that one down. Disconnect this guy from power. One of the interesting things too on this motherboard is that none of the PCIe slots have locks on them. They all just slip right out. Nobody's business. No lock needed. So we'll set that guy off to the side. bring our little 3050 in. It doesn't need any power source. And we'll pop a NVIDIA card, a display port into the NVIDIA card and turn it on and let it fire up on its own. So we'll see if this does any better. Earlier it did, and then I was able to put this guy back in and make some progress getting drivers installed, etc. So the driver that's currently installed in here is the 4080. And we wouldn't be able to install a 4080 with the 3050 in there, but apparently the 3050 can use the NVIDIA driver, or at least it says it's using that driver if you go into the device manager. So we've got our lights here like we light them. We don't have any lights back here on the SSD. Fan speed is kind of medium, and that's what we would expect at this point in the posting process. But really don't have any indicators. Oops, golly, don't want to pull that guy out by accident because it's not locked in. We don't have any indicators that we're doing anything other than just sitting around. And there have been times where I'll let this sit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, waiting to see if it's going to do anything, giving it as much time as it needs to kind of get its act together. But here in this case, we'll give it another 30 seconds, and then we'll shut it down and start again. Now, I have had some times where the screen will, oh, there we go. Let's see if we can go into the BIOS. There we go. Now we're in BIOS. There we go. Can you see the BIOS? Well, probably not very well. Let me see if I can sharpen that camera and see if that'll help any. Or maybe focus it. That would even help even more. Let's go to PTZ. Let's go to focus. Yeah, that looks better. And why don't we zoom in a little bit? Now the focus is not going to work. We may not be able to focus at this zoom. Let's go out a little bit. Okay, that may be the best we can do with that one. Let's see. All right, so we're in BIOS. We have updated it to the R09 BIOS, which is the latest BIOS, I think, last week or the week before. Nothing really interesting there on that screen. This is the advanced screen, and I'm coming down to the PCI subsystem settings, and each one of the PCIe slots is set for X16. X16, 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 and this is the one the CPU is in, X16. This is 7654321. So kind of backwards in that sense. Oh, you can't see that. Well, take my word for it. All right, so we're going to hit the escape key. We are going to go to the chipset. And here in the chipset, we're going to Advanced Power Management Configuration. And we're going to go to the CPU C-state control. And that's where we've got those disabled. The CPU 6C report disabled. Not sure what that is, but it's a C-state thing. And then we've got the package C-state control. And that's set to no limit. I guess, is there something that's a better? It was on auto. And so we'll leave it on no limit for the moment. Well, let's turn it back to auto, see if we get different function. Okay, And then server management, nothing here of interest. Security, nothing here of interest. Booting, we're booting to the solid state drive or a DVD second or a USB third. And we did have other options for booting to the network, which I have disabled because I don't want it to spend time trying to do that. So we'll go to save and exit. And we will save and exit. And let's see what happens. It says set VMC IPv6, I think is what it said. Okay, so the monitor has gone off. And we will see if we boot to anything. Sometimes this works. Sometimes this works immediately. Sometimes it works eventually. And other times it doesn't appear to boot to anything. Now I've got lights here on the, well, you can't really see. Okay, well there we go. We're back to the splash screen. And let's see if we get a little curly Q. There's our curly Q for Windows. And we are in Windows. Hooray. Now, let's see, do we have, I don't think, yeah, we're not in Windows for very long. The little white light's on. It's trying to restart itself, but it's not able to do that. And this is the very first symptom that I had, where the monitor is still on, the light for the CPU is on, excuse me, for the solid state drive, and then it flashes and flashes and flashes, and then it goes to orange, and there's no joy from here. Oh, I take that back. Just as soon as I say that, it makes a liar out of me. So we have an opportunity there. We're going to boot. My guess is it might give us an opportunity to repair our system because it didn't restart properly. Let's see what we get here. And it'll make a liar of me out on that one too. So we're back to Windows. Hooray! Back to Windows. So let's see for just a second. We'll check our device manager and see that we have an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050. That's there. And then we have a lot of things right here, which are drivers that came from Gigabyte that were installed, but earlier I did a restore and came back to before we installed those. But the system should run without those drivers installed. That shouldn't be an issue. We've got the Microsoft Basic Display Adapter. We'll disable that. That's a VGA port on the back of the system that we don't need. Let's see what else we can look at. Let's look at our event viewer again and see if we've got any other information about multiple crashes. We'll give that just a second to populate while we do. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we got error, error, error. There's a critical. That was at 3:23, so that was a minute ago. Bunch of errors in here, bunch of errors. And then we can go back to the last critical one, which was at 3:07. So somewhere in all of this may lie the answer. And this right here marks the point where the system has come back on after trying to reboot, or after rebooting, and said the system didn't reboot cleanly without shutting down first. So what's our warning says? Display driver NVLDDMKM stopped responding and has successfully recovered. And that's what all these other errors are that driver trying to recover. Boy, bunch of times. Okay, so we have an issue. We have an issue. Other than that, this system is amazing. Is amazing. Let's just go into Windows Update and see what it would like to do. Yeah, it wants to install version 24.2. We don't want to do that. But let's see what else we might be missing. But even having updates missing, the system should be stable and not just, it's not like it blue screens. It's not like it, gives us some sort of message. It just turns off. Now the power doesn't go off, but the machine goes off. So far as, yep, we're up to date. So golly gee. So that's the story on that little guy. It might be fun to pull the one that works in here and pop it in place and let you see what that one looks like when it works. But let's see if we've got anything in the chat. The power supply is 1,000 watts. And Dave says in chat, for a beefy, speedy system, it sure posted really slowly, and you may have built the unobtainium system instead. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting. Okay, well, let me go take this one apart, and we'll bring the good one in so that you can see what it should look like when it's working correctly. So 1 second, let's power this guy off. We're just going to shut it down through Windows. And we will disconnect DisplayPort, Ethernet, USB, USB, and USB. And just to make things easier, we're going to disconnect the CPU fans and the power, the pump control. And then I guess we should also turn off the power supply. And we'll take the 24-pin out, the 8-pin CPU, and the other 8-pin CPU. There we go. So we're all disconnected from power and peripherals. And then we'll grab this guy and his associated cables in one hand. And this, I will leave this video card here. And we'll grab up this guy and just move him off to the side for the moment. And let's go get the other guy, who is resting comfortably just out of sight. And if you think this guy looks like that guy, it's because they are twins. Apparently not identical twins. So we'll come in with this guy. And we've got all of his associated cables to the water cooler. Let's go ahead and get that hooked up before we do anything else. And this is just a system fan header right here for the pump. So the pump's going to run continually. And then this is the CPU fan header. And that's going to tell the fans when to turn off and on. I wish, apparently the BIOS doesn't offer, or at least this BIOS doesn't offer any control for the fans. So I don't know if you could hear them in the background, but they ramp up pretty quickly and shut down pretty quickly, which I guess can be its own advantage or disadvantage. But I would rather have something that behaved a little bit more civilized fashion. Sorry, giving you just a butt shot here, but it's the only way to get these cables in. And get that guy in and solid, good. And we'll start out with the 3050 on this one just to do apples and apples, and we'll start out with the wired cables for the mouse and keyboard, just to be apples and apples. And our 3050 right here, and our display port right here. And we've got power, USBs, display port. And let's turn this on and see what happens. Is it going to fire off on its own? Probably not, because I shut it down manually through Windows. So we'll have to jump these two pins in order to get it to start. There we go. So, same setup, same CPU, same RAM, same motherboard, same power supply, same graphics card, different M.2, of course, because, you know, the other one's mounted on the other board. And as you can see, this one doesn't zip over to posting either. Let's go back to the other screen. And yeah, there we go. And we'll see. Again, we've got two lights here in the front. We'll go down just a little bit more with the monitor so you can see those. There we go. That's a little too far. All right. So we've got these two lights right here are the only indication, other than the fans, that anything is happening. Okay, now we're getting some activity on the screen. This is because I disabled the network boot, and it is going to boot or post to the BIOS. Post to the BIOS. There we go. Well, let's see if we can get it to post to the BIOS. All right, there we go. Posting to the BIOS. All right, so we've got the same R09. We've got the same X16s on the PCIe slots. The chipset, we haven't done anything with the C states. Auto, and auto. So those are all the same. And on boot options 4 and 5 are disabled. On the other one, it didn't even show 4 and 5. That's interesting. So there's a difference between those now. And we will discard changes and exit and see if we can go to Windows. So there's Windows right away. You can already see the difference between the two machines. Oh, we didn't plug Ethernet in. Let's do that. Okay, so let's go over here into Event Viewer and look at our events. And we can see we've got an error, security SPP, another area down here, security SPP. For the most part, we're just at warnings. And there's nothing critical because the machine never stopped and tried to restart. So happy here. Again, errors and warnings. But if you check any PC, you're going to see this. In fact, that's what scammers use to make you think you've got problems with your PC. If you let them have remote access to your PC, they're like, look at all these problems you've got. Maybe you need to let us fix them. All right, device manager, we've got the 3050 again. We've got the disabled already, the video adapter, and you can see that the all of the drivers that were not installed on the other machine are installed here, but again, that doesn't keep it from stopping or starting. Let's see, let's check Windows Update and see what we've got there. Oh, we've got them paused, so let's resume them and see what happens. I think I paused these this morning, so we will see. It's nice to have two machines. Okay, so we're getting a security intelligence update from Microsoft Defender. So that's probably a daily update, and it's complete. We'll check again. I think we should be good. And this system is ready to rock and roll, but it takes forever to boot. Yeah, there we go. So we're good there. And we've even got vMix on this system. And earlier we set up and tested our 16 cameras, which are not connected right now. We don't have a Blackmagic card connected. So these are going to all say that there's nothing connected. This is the new version of vMix 28.0.0.40. Loading presets. There are 16 cameras. All 16 of them are offline because there are no capture cards installed in this PC. So there. I don't get it. What's the difference? I think, roll over to the other desk here for just a second. I think that it's a hardware problem. Let's see. Dave, John says, got to go. Okay, great having you. Dave says, have you tested the known good bits on the other motherboard? Yes. In fact, this second one, the one that's sitting behind us right now, I didn't change the C states, so that's not it. That came from the default settings. Dave says servers are slower to boot because their RAM is usually ECC, so it's built for accuracy and not speed. There may also be some more robust checking the memory during the boot up. And again, we're not using the fast boot. Let's shift this guy over to fast boot and see if we can get him to boot up quickly. So we want to get it to restart. And I'm just going to press the delete key when we get to the opportunity here. I don't know if you can hear that fan noise in the background, but it's pretty intense. It ramps up and down. And it's obviously, it's controlled by the the motherboard. Okay, press delete to enter setup. Entering setup. Or not. Nope, here we go. Delete to enter setup. Okay. So let's see if we can boot on a fast boot. And see if that works. See what happens there. Do we get something that works more rapidly than we had before? So we're entering a power saving mode on the monitor. And this is not what I would consider a fast boot. Again, still a power saving mode. You know, I don't guess you can see that from your angle, but the little orange light on the monitor is lit. Same lights here on the motherboard, one light on all the time, and then two shorts and a long. Okay. Importing BIOS settings, preparing BIOS configuration, and we're booting. So maybe that was a little faster. Maybe not. But this is not like a gaming PC. This is not like the PC that we would have at home for family use or that we would use in our studio or offices, where we would turn it off and then turn it back on when we needed it. These would stay on 24/7. In fact, you know, the one here in my studio, my production PC stays on 24/7 because I want to be able to access it when I'm home. Let's see. The wattage on the power supply is 1,000 watts. And that is the vMix suggestion. In fact, this exact power supply was the one that they spec'd in their reference system. All right, Eric is using the Seasonic, but he's using the 1600 edition. And he says, if it cuts off at random, you might not have enough power. Well, except we're using the same power supply the same exact power supply for both systems. One crashes, one doesn't. So one would assume that the power supply is good and that's not the issue. Unfortunately, it's the only power supply I've got right now. I've got another one on order, but you know, supply chains. Would like to have a little bit more power. And here, okay, well, let's try an experiment with this one. Let's take the 3050 out of this one. Although the 3050, the other one crashed with the 3050. Let's take the 3050 out of this one and see if we can get it to work with the 4080. So we're going to do a shutdown, which will actually turn everything off. It's amazing. Fans turn off, everything turns off. We'll turn off the power supply. We'll disconnect our DisplayPort cable here and pull out our 3050 graphics card and bring in our 4080 Super. Boy, the difference in weight between these two is substantial. And we will connect up this really funky cable that goes with it, that actually came with the power supply. That was pretty neat. All right, so we've got, let's plug in some DisplayPort here. We've got DisplayPort, we've got the GPU installed, and we've got power to it, and we'll turn on here. It probably won't turn itself on because we told Windows to turn it off. So let's go ahead and jump the pins right over here and get it to start up. And we'll see what it does. What could it do? What could it do? So the question becomes, what's the difference? What's the difference? Oh, there we go. Oh no, I'm sorry, I was looking at another screen. It hasn't done anything. And it is stuck on fast boot. In fact, if we get to BIOS, let's go ahead and turn that off per Dave's suggestion. And it may be, since we have a new graphics card in there, that it has to go through generally RAM is the only thing it has to go through a learning process on, but you never really know unless you were the one that designed it. So right now we have essentially the same hardware setup we had on the other system. We have the same exact power supply. We have the same exact graphics card. Same keyboard, same mouse, same USB dock. The differences are the motherboard, the CPU, and the RAM. All right, so let's see if we can go into setup here. Or not. You would think it would just go boom, right like that into setup. Let's try again. Nope. Is the third time a charm? Or is there going to be a third time? Now again, this is our good system, quote unquote, good system. And we're trying to get it where we can boot into the BIOS. I don't see any evidence that's going to do that. Let's give it another minute. So even our good system is now suddenly unreliable. Okay. See, no indication that anything is happening here. Fan speeds are staying the same. So we'll turn the power on, and the system should power itself on. There we go. And you can hear the fan on the cooler ramp right up and then ramp right back down. And that's attached to the motherboard, so it's getting instructions from the BIOS, I'm assuming, on when to do that. And the cooler fans have kind of ramped up to a medium speed now, which tells me, okay, maybe it's done checking the RAM and it's ready to do something else. The suspense is killing me. Well, we'll let that go for a minute. Okay, let's see. John says, your power is off, I think. Well, it's the same power supply, the same exact box being used for both systems. Dave says, good system is connected to the other power supply, or have you used the same power supply all along? Same power supply all along. And even now, the good system is not behaving. The difference is we put in a different card. Oh, here we go. Let's just let it do its thing here and see what it does. Is it going to boot to Windows? It should. It should just go to Windows because we haven't told it not to. And I'm looking for a light. Okay, same menu that we got before. And there we go. We've got a light on the solid state drive, and we got booting to Windows here. That's not what we wanted. We wanted to take the fast boot off. Ah, we've lost our driver. We have lost our driver, and let's see. Device manager. Oh, and the driver came back. And it says we have a 4080 Super. So that's why the driver was giving us a little nonsense there. Let's see if we can restart this one. Restart. Restarting. And I want to keep my finger on the delete key because I'd like to go into BIOS and set the fast boot off. All right, let's see. All right, power state, that means the monitor's not getting a signal. And we would expect, you know, there we go, getting the same menu as before. It says entering setup, but it's not entering setup. And we have no display going to the monitor. Now we know that the card works because we just saw it work. Don't think the card is intermittent. I think we're caught in some sort of dastardly loop where we get that text screen twice and then nothing else happens after that. So let's try one more time and then we're going to move on to something else for today. And we'll turn it back on and give it a chance to do its thing. I remember with the old platter disk drives, the hard drives, you could tell by listening to it if things were happening. If there was a sound, some clicking or buzzing, you could tell it was ramping up, things were happening. It was reading data and writing it into memory so that the CPU could use it. No hard drives. The only clicking and buzzing and whirring is occasionally the graphics card will make a click. And then all the fans, of course, have their noises. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fans going here and a pump. So you would think that would draw quite a bit of power. Yeah, this card is cool as a cucumber. CPU, I can't even tell which is the entrance and which is the exit pipe because they're both the same temperature. And the fans here are blowing cold, the radiator's cold. And the pump is cold. The pump is actually built into the radiator. That's pretty cool. All right, there is our kind of our BIOS entry screen, as it were, where it gives us an opportunity to do that. Keyboard in all the way? Yeah. Okay, there we go. There we go. What was the key to that one, Tom? I have no clue. Fast boot. Disable. Doesn't appear to make a whole lot of difference. Oh, enables, disables the fast boot by skipping some drivers. Okay. Well, maybe that means booting into Windows. Doesn't seem to make any difference. So let's save changes and exit. There we go. Okay, guys. Well, boy, that was about as much fun as we can get. About as much fun as we can get. So I'm going to post these results in the vMix forum on that Obtanium thread in the general discussion area. And I know Ed is just like, this is way too exciting. Way too exciting. Let's flip over to post show, even though technically, you know, we really didn't have a difference. But that would allow me to show the comments here. So we'll do the outro and then we'll go to post show. So here we go. Oh, let's get that off. There we go. Don't we all feel like the redheaded stepchild sometimes? Yep. Hey, Gunnar, glad you're here. Hey, John, glad you're here. 1,000 watts. For a beefy, speedy system, it sure posted real slow. Actually, I think it's beefy. I think it's beefy. Yeah. I think it's beefy. Dave says, never use fast boot on any vMix system. Good idea. 100 watts. No, 100 watts. 100 watts wouldn't run anything. 1,000 watts. There we go. Yes. Yes. And Eric is, oh, and we booted to Windows. Inconsistency is not good. It's not good. Way too much excitement, for sure. Hello, Michael Graves. Hello, Michael Graves. Well, guys, I would say that I can't quite call this a fail because we've learned some things. I mean, sometimes learning what doesn't make a difference is good because then you don't have to go back and try that again. Unless you've tried something else, then you need to go back and test something. But if there's a link of chains and you've tested, you know, all these links and you change something down here, it's probably not going to affect anything that came before it. So we'll just have to see. We'll have to see. So I'll be touching base with Gigabyte. And I'm going to continue building this system. The fact that it doesn't boot quickly is not a showstopper. The fact that it doesn't restart is a concern. And we'll kind of move from there. Michael is asking. No, not yet. But what I am seeing is that supply chain, that where I could buy 10 of something before, they don't want me to buy 10. They want me to buy only what I need at the moment. So we'll see how that changes. it may be just a temporary thing. Treasury Secretary was speaking today and indicated that there could be a deal in the offing with China. So we'll see. We'll see. If any of you guys have any thoughts on this, or you'd like to chat with me about this, my phone number is on my website on the contact page. And I'm going to go back to these guys, and I've actually got another one I'm building here, so I'll probably go work on that one for a while. It's a normal one. It's a normal one. Considering the purchase of a new system before the prices jump. I think we're in the kind of the ramp up stage. It just hasn't hit all the way through. You know, people are selling their on-hand stock probably for what they paid for it. And as that on-hand stock is replaced with new stock that had tariffs on it or not replaced, that's the real concern. I try to keep a lot of gear on hand, especially since the pandemic. I keep lots of things that I think can be hard to find. Power supplies and solid state drives, that kind of thing. Ed talked to a distributor. They anticipate a hike on May 1st. Yep. And I think for finished goods, like cameras, for example, audio mixers, you know, things that have some degree of component assembly, we might see more effect on those. I don't know. I was going to say than video cards or solid state drives, but I guess those are assembled products too. We'll see. We'll see. I do know that when I make quotes these days, my quotes have been good for 15 days, not 30, because I feel like I can build something from parts on hand for prices that I already know of. But the next guy gets parts that, you know, have to replace the parts on hand that cost 10, 20, 30% more. We'll see. We'll see. It, you know, the sun keeps shining. We'll all make it through one way or another. Until next week, I will see you guys later.